We've also seen the scrapping of infrastructure in other ways. It's more cost effective for someone who owns a tractor trailer, you know, the big box thing that truck hauls down the road. Those things are worth more in scrap than you can sell them to somebody to use as a trailer. Those things, when they're sold for scrap, they are gone forever. And what brings the food to the supermarket? That truck. Gone forever. The lessons people learn from this, unfortunately, is the deck stacked against you. Don't try to make it on your own. Get a government or other cubicle job. Shut up and don't rock the boat. More importantly, shut up anybody else who might rock the boat. Especially those goofballs who believe in liberty or might vote for Ron Paul or listen to Chuck Baldwin. Don't listen to those guys. Shut them down. Most importantly, stay in your cage and don't threaten us. That's what the electorate is saying. Stay in your cage. Because we steal from you and we don't like the idea that you might figure it out. Tyranny of the nice. Who is the enemy of liberty? It's not the people in the government offices. They are just the agents of the true enemy of liberty. The people who do not want to provide quality of life and add to civilization or add to culture. Let's talk a little bit about the IRS hockey stick. I need a time check. What time is it? Noon? Okay, we're running out of time, unfortunately. I'm going to skip this, but basically the bottom line of that slide is that all the projections of government revenue are based on the idea of revenue is going to continue and increase, but good grief, guys, it's about to fall off a cliff. Because all these people that are tearing the houses off their farms and auctioning their equipment off, they're not paying taxes anymore. So all your projections of what's about to happen is based on a lie because the productive capacity is gone forever. And the enforcement is about to pick up. This summer, I think you'll start seeing the IRS just go absolutely nuts chasing people for taxes. And more importantly, extorting taxes that aren't actually due. Just making it up. Joe Stack is going to, unfortunately, look mild in comparison when that starts, I think. But take heart. I hate that I can't continue with the rest of this, that we're running out of time. But you have to realize that what we are seeing, I'm going to cover the essential if I can. We're seeing a collapse, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to take months to decades to fall apart. This is accelerating. We may already be on this part of the curve. Absolute tyranny, when they realize you figured it out, will happen right about here. This is when they come to get your guns. This is when they do all the bad things we're afraid of. But the heartening thing about absolute tyranny is it can't feed 300 million people. And so there will be a period then which will lead to this spot here, which is an absolute collapse of law and order. Now, if you're one of those guys wearing the official costume, like Will Grigg likes to say, this day is a bad day for you because all of those people you've taught lessons to, they're ready to exercise it when that day happens. So please, start now. Don't wait until the bad day to be the good guy. Be the good guy today. Start now. Stop pushing people into corners. Stop manufacturing bad guys. We're all in this together. And the masses, the electorate who wants to steal, they have set you guys up as the prize suckers of creation. They've set you out as the bad guys when really they're the bad guys. Stop falling for it. Do what you're supposed to do. Protect us. Because when that day arrives, why should we protect you? It's that simple. Now the advantage for people who like to provide quality of life is there's a dark age coming. That sounds crazy to say that's an advantage. Because we can live in that world. If we had everything we own taken from us, tomorrow we would start doing stuff that would lead to a better world for ourselves. We can survive a dark age. The people who depend on us, they can't. Let them go. Let them go. We can work in this world and we can rebuild. We can rebuild civilization from the ground up if we have to. We can influence the dark age. We can influence the rebirth. But one thing we have to understand is the best collapse we can experience is steep and fast. If it drags on for years and decades, all of those trailers are gone. All of that infrastructure is gone. We need it to come down hard and fast so the good stuff is still left that we can pick up the pieces and rebuild with. Because a slow collapse kills us all. I don't want to live in a world that is medieval but no resources anymore because all the good stuff has already been taken. I want to live in kind of the technological environment we got today, only I want to live in it with the good people. A slow collapse, though, kills us all because all the good stuff is gone now. It's like going to Goodwill in a rich city versus going to Goodwill, or a rich community versus going to Goodwill in a slum. The stuff in Goodwill is really good when you're in a prosperous area. The stuff in the slum is no good. I mean, that's what happens after a long period of time. The good stuff gets burned for firewood or has the roof taken off of it. So better for it to go down fast, which is why you got to stop clawing. Let it go. Let them run for the cliff as hard as they can. There are similar strategies for surviving a collapse, surviving a dark age, or influencing the recovery, and it's all simple. Provide that quality of life to civilization. You do that, you're going to be okay. Now, does that mean some bad guy's not going to come shoot you and take your stuff? Yeah, it could happen, but dude, it's happening now. It's just they're under the color of law when they do it now. Ask anybody who's been hounded by the IRS. So don't fear the collapse. Look at it as an opportunity. Because we, the people who provide quality of life in this country, we can survive it. And we can have a better world on the other end. But it requires us reconnecting with those basic concepts. You know, I don't disagree with you, I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me, but we don't have to fight about it. Because that's part of the process. That whole free trade of ideas even. Reconnect with those basic concepts. And victory is economic too. Not only the struggle, but the victory. That's an economic thing. We can win. How not to survive? The stone soup model. Which means you try socialism on a small scale in your community, it's going to kill you just as dead as doing it on a nationwide scale. You got to be trading value, not demanding value. Not saying, hey, everybody bring your stuff and we'll put it in a big pot. No, sorry, that's not the way it works. No. Bring your stuff and, hey, you got that much stuff? Well, that's going to get you this much soup. The myth of labor value. I'm just going to run through this real quick. Labor alone is not enough. It takes ideas. Because if you lift this 2 liters of water up 2 meters, that takes 40 joules. Imagine doing that 90,000 times in 1 hour, which is equivalent to 1 kilowatt hour. Right? Electricity costs about 10 cents. Would you take a job lifting 90,000 bottles of water uphill for an hour for 10 cents? Of course not. Your muscles don't count. What counts is in your head. What you can do, what you know, is more important than how strong you are. Which means the worst handicapped child can put a pump and a hose in place to pump more water than the most burly guy you can imagine, if they use their mind. Physical handicaps are no challenge to people who know how to produce value. This has implications for minimum wage. You wouldn't pay somebody to do that. That's stupid. Slavery versus automation, you're not going to beat a slave to do that for you because you can get a pump and 10 cents of electricity to do the same thing. And ideas and energy are more important than just raw muscle power. We're going to rebuild this with our ideas. We're not going to rebuild it by getting out in a communal farm and shoveling around in the ground. We're going to get it by figuring out how to get the tractor working again and how to get some fuel in it. All free men, ultimately, are idea workers. But subsistence laborers are nothing more than slaves. And most of you are, you know someone who's been driven into subsistence. They've been converted into slaves. Here's some examples of idea workers. Doctors, of course. Engineers use their mind to create things. But here's one that's not obvious, a welder. A guy who's never been to a day of school in his life beyond the 9th grade can be a whiz with a welder, and he can look at a pile of scrap and he can create something useful out of it. He's an idea worker. We're not paying him to use his muscles. We're trading with him because he can convert that scrap into something beautiful and useful. Or the truck driver who moves things down the road. We got to not fall into the trap of thinking, like Ayn Rand did, that it's only the intellectual elites that really matter. No, it's everybody. All of those people working for those companies with her stories, those guys count too. We're all in this together. Anybody who produces quality of life is an idea worker ultimately. Because the first idea you got to have is you got to have the idea, I believe in that. But modern schools, what do they produce? Obedience.